All right, guys. Well, welcome to the Sonic Truth. Today we have two very special guests. We have Lloyd here, who's running front of house for Young the Giant, and we have Eric from the band Young the Giant. How you guys doing?
Doing great. Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Awesome. Welcome to the show, y'all.
Yeah, I should also mention to, my right here, we have Gator, or Rob, as he goes by, either or.
Yep.
So it's his first time on the podcast today. Justin couldn't make it. He had a flat tire out in Orlando. So are you still out in Orlando, Lloyd?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, you could have picked him up.
Yeah.
Could have just picked him up and came here in person. But no, we have Rob sitting in. Maybe some of you know him from some of our recent commercials. He's been the star of our, he's karate chopping the units. He's doing all sorts of fun stuff. So, so I'm really pleased to have Rob with us. So I just wanted to dig right in though. You came by, what was it, about 6 weeks ago? Something like that? And you basically took over our whole lab, our whole finishing station for a whole day. You went nonstop about 8 hours. And can you tell us what you were doing here and why you shut down production?
Well, you guys kindly invited me over. Well, I kind of forced my way through the door for sure. Living in Orlando as well. The long/medium version of the story is, Eric and the guys in the band, we had a discussion at the top of the year about how to elevate things at front of house. And, using the tools that I have already that I've been using for many years, knowing the bits and pieces that are out there outboard wise and what I would like to do to kind of really elevate it, to get it to that next level. I found you guys through a friend of a friend. And lo and behold, you're down the road in Daytona. So, I reached out to you guys and said, can I come over and have a play? And you guys very kindly opened up the shop. And by which point I'd done a lot of research. I'd actually already shared a lot of intel with Eric and Jacob, all the guys in the band, honestly, to be honest, about kind of what I wanted to do. I'd even laid out like a little track, little Excel spreadsheet with the schematics of my kind of hopes and dreams of what I would like to add at front of house to make this kind of a special year ahead for audio. Went in and obviously you gave me the keys to the castle and tried. You had one of everything in that room in your racks behind you, ready to go. And then my man Ryan was having fun patching in my system because I brought my front of house board along, which is beautifully portable, and you guys got to see that too. Yeah. And you let me play with all of your toys for a considerable amount of time, a lot of back and forth, a lot of A-Bing. And I remember, being in touch with Jacob and Eric, specifically in real time about some of the kind of excitement that I was having and some of the things that I was playing with that you guys make that I wasn't expecting to like, just because of, what they were based off historically. Not that I wasn't expecting to like, but more that I wasn't expecting to be the right use of the tool on the tracks that I wanted to use them on. We really came to some great conclusions at the end of the day. And I think I played the band's music for nonstop through that period of time as well. I don't think I put headphones on maybe once or twice to have a detailed listen, but I used those nice monitors behind you very loudly.
Yes, you did.
in place of a PA to really dive into it. Yeah.
No, it was great because it felt like we had a concert here the whole day, pretty much. And one thing I think that was interesting that you said is you honed in on was you really went deep. I mean, you tried everything out, basically on everything, every single source material. Like you really and I think there were some things that you thought they did exactly what you wanted them to do, or maybe you had some in the box ones you were using before. And so you had some preconceived notions on what you thought would work that we offered. And sometimes they were right in line. And then sometimes you gravitated towards some other pieces, that surprised you. Like for instance, the DA3A was one. I think you were coming in here and you didn't really know what to expect from that. But then at the same time, when it was all said and done, now you want a pair of them, 4 channels.
Yeah, you beat me to it. I was like, now I've got 2 of them that we're about to ship over to LA, and that was, you know, we're turning this into an advertisement, obviously, for how good your stuff is, but that was an incredible shift to the ears that I wasn't expecting, for sure. I definitely came in thinking that I wanted to use a specific tool, your 160, the Stereo 160, because I use that as the in-the-box plugin on Eric and Jake's guitars already. And I've been using the 160 on guitars for over a decade at this point when I've been mixing. I was convinced that was the right tool. Fantastic unit, sounds amazing. But when I went over to the 3A, it was mind-blowingly like different, like the detail, the clarity, like, and the transparency of the limiting and the compression on that thing was just crazy. So yeah, now we have 2 and they're doing guitars.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, they just do something really special and rich in the mid-range that just, like you said, they just come right out in your face. And yeah. That's I think Bob Clearmountain calls it the cheat box, and that's why he does, because it's just you turn it on, it's just anything that lives right there in that mid-range, like guitar, piano, anything's just, it's perfect.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I just want to say, Eric, as well, Lloyd really did go deep. He spent all day just freaking like all out. So
you're in good ears and hands.
I really wish I could say that about every front of house engineer, but in my experience, that's not always the case. So you guys, I know you already know, but you got a really good one here.
You don't seem like a grumpy one either.
It's true. It's been a pleasure to work with Lloyd. Lloyd started out with us, tour managing us, but we knew he was a front of house, and you've been doing front of house for us for not, what, a year, maybe?
Well, I mean, technically, you had the wonderful James, who is worth talking about, definitely an incredible front of house engineer who's been with the band for a long time. And he went off to do Third Eye Blind this year. And, the nature of the touring that we have this year, we had a really great conversation, and the band put their faith and trust in me, which I'm very grateful for. And thankfully had a small resume to back it up. So, I've had a blast with it, and the guys have been nothing but kind, and everybody's had very kind things to say. But I will say, to your point, Chris, is that not everybody has the tools to do what we did. I live just down the road. My front of house console is in a Pelican Air and a 1510. And you open the shop, and the ability to go through that. I've worked with a lot of engineers in my career who I've learned from to be where I'm at today. And they would spend hours in the shop, being things that come in to prep their rig in the production houses that I started out my touring career in. And, we had shelves upon shelves of outboard. We had the outboard room, and that thing was, I remember the first time I walked into there in this company that I worked for called Scan out of the UK. It was amazing. It's the kind of thing that people who are really nerdy about outboard stuff, like everyone who's on this call right now, that was going into a room and just being like, holy crap, you've got what? And it was great because, we had engineers coming in and they just got to pick and choose, and they'd spend the day running some tracks and listen to everything. And then there were guys who came in and they were like, I know I'm going to want that. Because that's the right tool for that channel. So yeah, it's all just trial and error, and yeah, grateful that we've had the time to do that. And the guys, Eric and the rest of the band, this is a labor of love, because I'm a fan of the band as well before I was working for them as well. So it's just kind of one of those cool full circle things as well. And we set a budget in mind to take things to kind of that next level, and here we are. And I could wheel it in later if you want, but the rack is done, Chris, and it is in the room next door.
I want to see it.
Yeah, maybe we'll take a break and I'll
only
wheel
seen
it in.
the spreadsheet so far.
Yeah, all we have is a picture. I was going to pull up the picture. I don't know, Shane, do you have the picture that this is the picture I think Lloyd sent us. It's probably just gonna be on a computer screen here, but oh, there it is.
Go.
Yeah. So this is all we've seen so far. So I know, Lloyd, you're gonna get some photos. Do we want to do like a quick breakdown on what your rig as far as what's in this rack? I think this is this your entire rig right now, Lloyd?
I got to check actually that we're on the right version there. I think we are. I think maybe I swapped one or two things around, but yeah, I mean, we're on, I think it's about the same thing. And again, this is like, you know, I was talking to Eric and Jacob specifically along the way about what I wanted to do. And, you know, I felt like Eric was kind of testing me a little bit along the way, sometimes in a good way. He's like, oh, what do you want to do with this? What do you want to do with that? What are you going to put on that? Like, oh, okay. Because, you know, and Eric, you can talk about it as well. Like, technology now is so impressive, and everything that is in the box that most engineers are using. Obviously, it's probably worth mentioning that Outboard at front of house is definitely making a comeback over the last year for sure.
Yes.
And I wanted to make sure that anything I brought out wasn't just to be, look at all the cool stuff I've got. It had to serve a purpose, because as Chris, you know, we were talking in the shop, like some of the plugins out there, when you A/B them, it's like the average listener would have a very difficult time telling the difference between the two. But when you gel it all together and you really are like experiencing it as a full mix, and you're taking things in and out, and you are kind of trialing and errors, it does make sense, I think, not only to a trained ear, but also to a mix in general in a crowd. You know, there's something just happening there that's magic, that is real circuitry, that is real valves, that are making a difference. But, you know, even you guys, you know, you've been playing around with some plugins as well, and modeling of your own stuff. And I'm not sure whether or not you'll continue to do that or just remain in the analog world. But, you know, the programming, the ones and zeros, the replication is very, very impressive. So I wanted to make sure, and Eric wanted to make sure, and the band wanted to make sure that everything that we were doing served a purpose. And I feel like with the rack that we've built of your gear, it really does. And I think that people are gonna get to see that and hear it, more importantly.
Yeah. It's and I think that's a very excellent point that you were talking about. And we did speak about this. It's, you know, you solo things, you one-to-one. Yeah, sometimes it's hard, but it's almost like a summing, you know, that's going on, where it's the summation of all those parts together, and all those, you know, same goes with a mix and hardware and everything. It's, you know, after a certain point, once it's all put together, you can really hear that difference, you know? So I think going through things here, obviously, well, we don't need to talk about the power conditioner up top.
Which is now in the back of that rack, actually.
Oh, nice. Yeah, we got the bus comp up top, and you're using that across your mix, right?
That's correct, yeah. Bus comp was the first thing that I ever knew that you guys made, and was told about it by a friend as well. I've been using the SSL original bus comp plug, in the box plug on left, right, and on certain groups of instruments for a long time now. So to hear your one and just to have it replace, you know, the plug-in version and actually have some real analog on the left, right is really, really cool. And I love that. That thing is so detailed, like just the smallest little touch, and you've got like a massive impact. And I've got like the kind of place that I love it right now. So he's in the top left and right. And
yeah, it looks like you got the Rupert Neve Designs Newton channel right underneath that, and you're using that. What are you using that for, as far as which instruments?
Yeah, so we have the Newton channel at front of house on Samir, the band's lead singer's vocal. I'm using the EQ, compression, the silk. It's kind of mind-blowing. And even now, it's kind of like, I was just, you know, before I packed the rig up, because it's headed out to rehearsals tomorrow, but it's still, even yesterday I was kind of playing with it on his vocal on some of the tracks, and it's like, it's fantastic, because there's no visual representation of what's going on. There's no moving RTA. There's no cue, pull, negative gain. I can't see what I'm doing. And it's how I learned to mix, is to turn over here and or on a channel strip, obviously, turn a knob and use your damn ears to hear what it's doing. And that channel strip, if you will, is very, very impressive. I bypassed everything I had in the box, and it was kind of like, wow, okay. So it has an amazing color, amazing sound. And I'm just looking forward to playing with it more, because all I've got is, recordings that already exist that from the band from the last 5 or 6 shows that we've done. And yeah, it's fantastic. A really, really wonderful, wonderful tour. And the cool thing is that Eric and Jake on stage, we also have 4 of the Newtons doing pre's on stage for their guitars as well. So their signal flow, their channel strip is not really virtual anymore. It's all real, which is really cool. So their guitars are hitting the Neve, and then they're hitting my DA3As at front of house. It's very, very cool. So yeah, very exciting. But going down the rack real quick, because I want Eric to talk about his analog love as well, because it's easy for me to talk. But yeah, we have the Newton, and then I have that going directly into your 76 Bluey. Well, not Bluey, the Blue Face 76. And that was a cool experience to have, because we, as you know, we played with you'll have to remind me of the letter that you have after the number, the 76D, the A, and the F. We tried all 3 of yours on Samir's vocal. It was the first stage of compression. And that was really cool in itself, because we were talking about your 76 series for like an hour in the shop, like which one's the best one and why. And I did have a feeling that I was going to end up with the Blue. But yeah, it just suited his vocal really, really nicely. And the response on that. And the other thing about the 76 as well is I've been using the plug of that, and then the next one in the chain, your 2A, in line for a long, long time. That's been my vocal compression chain. I'm not reinventing the wheel with that one. I'm pretty sure that's a fairly well-known leveling, the compression, the limiting, the leveling with the 2A afterwards, like the soft compression, just to hit those peaks. And to have it in real life now, for honestly the first time probably ever in my mixing career is amazing. So yeah, 76 and then into the 2A. And again, I've only scratched the surface really with my settings that I've been mixing at home in my studio. And it's like the results of that chain are like really, really impressive. Like nothing is happening in the box for Samir's vocal anymore. It's literally that. And then obviously my in the box effects. And it's just like amazing. So the Neve into your 76, into the 2A, and it's like, it's real, it's tangible, it's there. It's like the effects of turning things you can hear straight away. And it's really great. So that's Samir's chain. And I'm pretty sure, Eric, you made a point pretty early on in the conversation here to make sure that we were doing something next level with Samir's vocal.
Yeah, I mean, in the studio, a lot of this gear that we're using that you guys emulate, it's the classic, our entire last record, I think we went a little hot in the 1176, the Neve 1073 through the 1176, and I think we just like cranked the 1176 the entire time, so loads of compression on his vocal. But yeah, I mean, it's for me, it's cool to see Lloyd this excited. I think when we talk about like making something that's kind of the essentials, that just really each piece of gear has its purpose. That's kind of the way that I think about my kind of home studio setup. It's essentially the same thing. It's one rack. It's it's a Neve. It's an opto compressor. Some good preamps, some good, I like the Chandler preamps. I like the 1073. Yeah, I love the TG2, especially for guitar and bass. But I'm excited to try out the Newton live, because right now I think I've been running the Chandler cassette channel strip, which is a little bit less of a, road, tested. It's got the, more of a studio vibe, but yeah. And then I'm just excited, the way that Jacob and I have been running our rigs lately. We haven't been on amps in a long time. Okay. So my amp essentially is I'm gonna try out a couple different things, but for this tour, but my amp has technically been the Dream 65 pedal that Universal Audio makes. And that's been going into the Chandler cassette channel strip. So now that will be going into the Newton channel into y'all's compressor front of house. And so, yeah, I'm interested in seeing the differences. I mean, it's funny because we're such nerds about this stuff. We're always talking about how to just improve it. And at a certain point, it's like, okay, like it's feeling good. It's sounding good. I mean, I remember the difference between going from an amp on stage, which I love amps, and I'm definitely at home going back to like, oh man, my little Fender Champ sounds incredible. And what am I doing? Why am I, And then there's times when like, you just run a fuzz pedal directly into a preamp and blow it out, and it's exciting as well. So, kind of never been a diehard analog only or digital only like person, but I'm just excited to have the mix and have everything kind of, ending up going through something, like we say, like put stuff through other stuff. And I think you guys are right. It's like at the end of the day, it really adds to the dimension and the depth of the sound. And yeah, I love the kind of essentialist mindset Lloyd has had with this rig. It's nothing unnecessary.
No, but it's really, yeah, essentials. I mean, you look at this rack, you have all the essentials. One thing I think is interesting, the next thing on this rack is the decomp.
I love it.
And I know Rob builds them.
Yeah.
Yep.
I build them, the V comps and the BA6A. Or sorry, ASA 6A.
Well, good job.
Yeah. Thank you.
And yeah, you want to talk about that, Lloyd?
Yeah, I do. Because I came in wanting to use the AS, right? I feel like I had made my mind up before I even came in. I was like, I want that tool. It's a 2U, because, it's worth mentioning as well. Like, we can't, not many bands can kind of like travel with multiple double wide racks. There are a handful of guys out there who do it. But we're kind of a little bit more limited on space and whatnot. So that rack, that I built was based on how much space have I got in it and what can I use? So, coming in, looking at the AS, the 78, I'm getting that number correct, yes?
Yep. Yeah, the AS78.
The 78, I thought was going to be the one straight away for my kick and my snare groups. It's a 2U, 2-channel. So, I came in straight away and I told you, Chris, I want to put the kick through channel A and I will put the snare through channel B. And I tried it out straight away. And I thought that it was a wonderful, wonderful compressor. And it was doing some really great things. And I was like, okay, I'm glad I was kind of like on the mark here for this one. And then of course, the next thing down in the rack you have is the decomp. And I'm like, okay, what's that? And then we patched it over. And I mean, you were stood next to me. I remember I put just literally went from the 78 over to the decomp, did the exact same thing, took about 30 seconds to dial in some settings. And what it was doing to the tone, specifically of the kick drum, I will remember that moment of that sound and how quickly and how easy it was able to come together with the decomp. And then, jumping over to the snare, I mean, like I'm still playing with it as of yesterday. And like when I next see the rack in a couple of weeks in rehearsals, I'm excited to get back to it because I think I've only really I've got like some settings there that I really like right now. But again, when you get a mic on a drum in a real room and I'm in the listening booth next door with everything set up, and you have Fran who's going to be playing, it's going to be awesome to like dial it in even more. So like the whole rack is set right now. I'm like, I'm ready to do a show, but I want to get like everything just fine tuned. And that's what's so cool about this rack, is that everything is just right there and you can just make those adjustments. But the decomp was another really cool thing that I wasn't expecting to walk away with, really. And that was a lot of those moments that I had in that room that you're in, being like, okay, that's the one, that's the tool. Yeah, decomp's amazing. Like the side chaining of when the compression kicks in, like the curves that you have, the frequencies that you have on there are just ideal for a kick and a snare. Like so good. The speed as well, the attack and the release times that you have on there, like the amount that they massively affect the tone of those groups as well is also really like it's just like it's kind of a Swiss Army knife kind of unit, because I'm sure it would sound great on anything you put through it, but like just specifically knowing that I wanted a 2-channel 2U item to do those two specific groups that are arguably in the top 5 most important things that you could ever hear on a stage, kick and snare, was very important. So that I'm super happy to move over to the decomp, like from the expectation of going in thinking, oh, I know I'm going to get the 78, which again was great, but just the decomp did something with the tones and it's fantastic. Really looking forward to using that one.
Yeah, no, that was pretty cool. Yeah, to see your expectation and then try it through something different, see that change. And yeah, you're right. There is nothing like a decomp on drums, like on kick and snare, what it does to each one of those. I mean, the 78 is amazing on like overheads, a room mic, crushing room mics, and you can blend it back in the studio. But, for kick and snare, that's definitely the right choice in my opinion, especially out there live using it. And I know you, one thing though, conversely, I think you came in kind of expecting the Blackface 76, the 76D to be good on bass. And that was, pretty much to your same expectation, pretty tried and true. I think that's the only thing. Yeah. Besides, we already spoke about the DA3As. Yeah. It was a 76D. And I know you ran some.
That was another cool thing to be able to have the time to put that through. I think that I was speaking to maybe Pam or Jake about that in real time, and the differences between the three again, being able to literally, you've got the three of them in a rack there, probably behind you still, right? Maybe you've got 1, 2, 3, 7, 6.
Yeah, they're right. Yeah, I'm blocking them. Here, I'll move my body.
Yeah, I mean, I literally did that. Same settings. Did that. Patched each one across the channel and kind of listened, played a little bit with the attack and the release in the in and out. The circuitry is, I'm not a circuit dude. You guys are the magicians there, but like they all sounded so good, but they had a different like tone to them. They had a different, they felt like to me, they had a different purpose. And for what Pam's bass playing style is, it's a lot of like top rolled off. It's a lot of sub heavy. There's a lot of kind of funk happening there, but then you've got other tracks that he's playing where he's got patches on his pedals where he's got super top end fuzz. And then there is a bit more of that twang on like his older, is it his harmony bass, Eric, that he's got the,
22.
That's it. That has that like vintage, like more toppy MIDI sound. I think going between the three, the Black is the one that just was as an all rounder, knowing his playing style and his dynamics as well, was the one that jumped out. But it was the F Silver Black.
Yep, that's right.
Okay. That one was it's an amazing unit. But again, for me, tonally, I preferred the sound of the Black because it has an older sound to it. It has a more saturated, like vintagey feel that again, I think goes with the style of playing. And the F was more modern feeling, a little bit more like maybe something more suiting a different style of playing, something a little bit faster, something a bit like way, I don't know. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's an excellent way to put it because the low end in particular between those two compressors, even though they're like one revision apart, they're like worlds apart tonally in the low end in particular. The low end on the D is there's this extension, it's woolly, it's big, it's, a great general purpose compressor for anything like you were talking about. And then the F is more modern. It's got that tight, punchy low end. So it's really, the way it handles low frequencies is completely different. But, sometimes noise is an issue for people, and the F is, wins for that too, because it's quieter. So it's the quietest 76 revision, basically. And that was the last revision with an input transformer was the revision F. And then the Rev G moved to the IC inputs. And that's what the 78 is kind of like a little bit. It's like a stereo Rev G. So there's no input transformers in the 1178. There's also no all buttons in on the 1178. And many people don't know that as well. There is on the 76s. The sidechain circuitry is completely different. And that the meters don't drift like the original 1176 on the 78 either as well. The whole metering circuit's different. So
I have to get one for myself.
Yeah.
I mean, they definitely warm up. Every time I turn it on, it's like 10 minutes later, the needles have kind of settled a bit, which is great in itself. I love the stickers that you have on top of the units as well. It's like, it'll probably settle after 10 minutes, but maybe just take the little screwdriver and dial it in. Which I like a lot.
It's one of those things when you do a circuit like that, you have to make a decision because you can make it to where it's just going to go up and just smack at zero, but then it doesn't really feel like it's like a vintage unit, because that's what they do. They're known for just doing that meter drift and doing that slow little dance up to zero or, past zero, and then you got to re-zero it, after a few hours or whatever it is. So yeah, that's something we sort of decided that, that's part of the charm of the circuit, and most people anyways just tape their meters and do what you were talking about earlier. They just want to hear what it sounds like, because sometimes the visual representation can really mess with you, especially, we see that all the time on I don't know if you tried out the V comp at all here, but if you look at the V comp, which is based on the old stay level, the meter scale is from 0 to 40. But then you look at the meter scale on the 76 or the Opto 2A, and it's most of it occupies 0 to 10 dB. So a lot of times we get, people, they don't understand that a little bit of movement on the V comp's really a lot on something like a meter scale, like a 76 or Opto that they're used to seeing. Just so it can really trick people when they start visually seeing things. So we recommend also just taping the meters or doing whatever, not to look at that. Just use your ears, and whatever sounds good is good,
Yeah, definitely. It's fun to see everything smack really hard, of course. But that's this is such a big part of it to me as an engineer is people are forced now and out of choice now as well, and out of budgets and out of cost for freight, to use more compact consoles, and everything's on a screen in front of you now, and it has been for a long time, and to be able to differentiate looking at a unit that's over here and the screen's over here, that I'm not constantly going back to a screen to be oh, did I hear that right? Or, or I need a visual representation of what I'm doing. It's so cool and really important if you trust your ears as well, that I was saying with the Neve as well, and I'm saying with everything that's in that rack, the smallest changes, when you can hear what it's doing, not only when it's, soloed or if you're listening to the channel on its own, but, in the mix, as I mentioned too, with the small movements, especially, all of them, it's so fun. It makes everything brings a lot of the joy back to it. Not that it's not a joy to mix a band in general anyway, in front of thousands of people. It's always really cool, but there's something about having that tangible, that touch and change, where you can close your eyes if you want. I could mix a show closing your eyes, but the nature of digital consoles now is you kind of do need to be looking at the screen a lot,
Yeah.
But to be able to not have to do that with the set of gear that I have now at this disposal, at my disposal, sorry, is really cool. And you can really tell the difference. And I think that even if you were to play a track or solo one of these instruments to somebody who had no idea the difference between anything, and I made a small change, it would be a kind of thing where they go, oh, I heard that. And you go, there you go, like, yeah, absolutely. Maybe not to like down to the circuitry level and like the super nerds in us and like the saturation and the, like the type of compression, the FET, the opto, the blah, blah, blah. But like at least on some level, where there is a noticeable difference by using this gear and being able to just really trust your ears as an engineer is a big deal to me anyway.
No, I think that is an important component of just hardware in general, like the physical connection with it. It's, like I really feel like, before I started building this, I used to do guitar pedals, and for like 5 years I had a company that did that. And then a lot of times I would just use whatever plugins back then, whatever stuff that was popular, and, all the usual suspects. And I really didn't, I feel like doing that, it was sort of shortchanging my learning experience with that, because once I started actually building them and understanding them on a component level, understanding their signal flow, their, inside the units, and actually how to use them. And you get that experience just by getting hands-on with them. So, a lot of times I think that's the best starting point really is analog, even over plugins, because you just a lot of times people they make it almost too easy. You're just glossed over. Let me just hit whatever preset, and we could go down that rabbit hole. But at the end of the day, there's something to be said for just getting hands-on and understanding, oh, when I turn this happens, and not having any quote unquote presets,
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's a lot of, there can be a lot of decision fatigue when you have every possible piece of gear in the box, when you're recording or when you're doing something, and having a limited, but like we're talking about the essential, number of outboard gear pieces, it gives you those boundaries, I think, to play in. That's for me in my brain, I like minimal. My brain likes less options. So it's almost like forcing yourself to have less options is helpful in some ways.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Yeah, placing limits on things. Yeah. I know Rob is like, he plays bass for Rome and Duddy, and right?
Yeah. Rome Ramirez from Sublime and Duddy from Dirty Heads. Yep. I'm simplistic. I'd like to just grab my Lakeland or my Music Man and plug straight into an Ampeg and turn it all the way up and just dial it back with my fingers. You know what I mean? Like, studio, I just use like a 64 blonde Bassman through one of our DIs, and then like a 76D, and then let the presence modulator in my fingers kind of do the work.
Yeah, for sure. I got into the guitar pedal world and have a few studio boards, and then I have my touring pedal board. But as I've gotten older, I've kind of started to realize that a lot of these pedals that I have, although they're so incredible, I started kind of wanting less options in even the pedals that I was using, and I feel like at a certain point, it's better for me to have, maybe one or two pedals in a chain when I'm recording something, rather than an entire plethora of pedals with knobs. That, I'm at the point where I'm like, I would love a studio space where like a 5-year-old could go in and record, like they would know how to use it. Yeah. But yeah, that's interesting. I've gotten more into my amplifiers at home recently. I have like a little, an old Magnetone. The models, I believe it's called a Magnetone 210, but it doesn't have 210-inch speakers. It's just, it was a student model that they made years ago, and it was the first model that they put the vibrato channel in. And it's this tiny little 5 watt amp or whatever. It's like, it's very cute. And it sounds awesome. And then my Vibro Champ, which is my other favorite amp at the moment. And lately, I've just been plugging a guitar directly into the amp and turning the vibrato up and playing with that and being like, oh yeah, like this sounds really nice.
This is why we started doing this.
Yeah. And then I'm like, and then you're like, well, it'd be nice to have a little reverb. And then, a year later, there's a whole pedal board in front of you.
It's funny because my console's small, but like the rack is like this. So like the rack of gear that I have takes up way more space than the actual console itself, which is quite fun too. But your stuff, this connection, getting to play with it, getting to hear it, it's been an absolute pleasure. And I'm just so stoked to play with it.
Likewise, the pleasure's ours as well. And I think it definitely makes a statement when you see a rack like that. And I know we've been talking about it, and we'll put it up on the screen as well so everybody can see it. And if you even if you want to send some pictures, some real-time pictures, I know you said you got it in the next room. So that would be amazing, I think, for everyone. Everyone would like to see it. We've been basically talking about it this whole time. So it would be good to show that. So I think that's everything. I think we're good, right?
I think so.
Yeah. I know we got to go eat some dinner, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Grub's on, y'all.
Yeah. No, thank you guys.
That's an early dinner for anyone.
Oh, we get up early here.
Yeah.
We start making the gear pretty early. We're usually in around 8.
Yeah, about 8 a.m.
Yeah.
Got to go do something with my pool. Get in it.
No, seriously. Thank you, Eric, Lloyd. Thank you so much for joining us on the show. It's been a pleasure, and I cannot wait to see what you all do with this stuff and with the whole rack. Like I said, it makes a statement, and it's going to be a good summer.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
May Roadie Fridays come quick for y'all, and may the Punishers be at bay.
We got to offline about that because yeah.
Thank you guys.
Thank y'all. Nice meeting y'all.
Yeah.
Nice
Thank
meeting
you very much.
Take care.